call this meeting to order for May 6, 2025. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Mike Levine. Here. Carol Wolford. Here. Walter Hayes.
Here.
James Shanks. Present. Bob McAfee. David Pyle.
Here.
Roger Spencer.
Here.
Anita Francis. Here.
Will you all stand with me and join in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Walter?
Pray with me. Father, as we commence this meeting of the Board of Alderman of the City of Carl Junction, we ask for your blessing upon our endeavors. Guide us to serve with integrity, compassion, and a deep sense of responsibility to the people that we represent. Amen.
Number 3 is approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion to approve the agenda by Dr. Pyle, second by Walter Hayes. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. 7 in the affirmative with 1 absent. Number 4 is a consent agenda. I have a question on disbursements. In the bill, we have a employee that's going out and buying clothing, and to Academy and Durham Sports, I have a hard time buying Carhartt products. And also, it was almost $497. There's almost $40 of that was paid in sales tax. And I just have a problem. We lost, well, Carhartt jeans are $69 a pair. She bought 3 pairs of shoes at $69 twice, and another pair at $79, and she went to Durham and bought 2 Carhartt t-shirts, I would call them, or shirts at $79.99 a piece. I think the money could have been spent somewhere else a lot wiser. Carhartt's a good brand, but you pay for it. And like I said, there's sales tax at Academy is $25.66, and the sales tax at Durham's was $13.96. So there's almost $40 there of sales tax we shouldn't have to pay for. I just have a hard time I know it's pennies, but pennies sometimes add up. And I'm sure Jay would like to go out and spend Carhartt on every one of his guys, but we just can't do that. That is my opinion and my opinion only. But if you wish to approve the disbursements, I just wanted to register a complaint.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion to approve the consent agenda by Dr. Pyle, second by Holly Levine. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. 7 in the affirmative, 1 absent. It's approved. Number 5 is public forum. If there's anyone wishing to speak to the mayor, Board of Alderman, during the time the public portion of the meeting should come forward, one at a time, stand at the podium, then state your name and address and the subject matter you wish to comment upon. All comments should be directed to the mayor in a civil manner. Comments are limited to 5 minutes unless the board or the mayor grants additional time. It's the mayor's response to make sure these rules are followed and to maintain order and decorum. If you have a question, Board of Alderman or the mayor may of course provide immediate response. However, the mayor and Board of Alderman may also provide no response at a later time as they deem appropriate. Now, is there anyone wishing for public comment? Please come forward and give your name and address. Walter?
Michelle? He's coming.
Microphone right up there. Please give your name and address.
I have children, so I always have to have a drink. My name is Rochelle Wren. I live at 905 Summerlin Lane. My issue is that I live next to a culvert. It goes down, I'd say approximately 15 feet. And kids use it as a pathway between Wisteria, Remington, and Summerlin. And I don't feel that they should be going and cutting through the property. And I've told them that it's very dangerous on that side to be going through the lot. The ground there is not stable. I actually slipped on the wet grass and fell. I fractured my orbital eye and got caught luckily by a tree. But there's poison ivy and lots of rocks. But they will jump from one part of the culvert to the concrete part of the culvert. And I've sent James and Walter photos of the culvert and kind of the layout of my property. And if you go to the other side, it's kind of more smooth, whereas the Summerlin side is all rock. It's got trees and it's completely different in the landscaping. And I'm requesting not just a sign, but more of a fence, because it's actually soft and the ground is kind of caving in. It's slipping. I think that's the only way that you're gonna be able to keep the kids away from that area, because they just, run through there and somebody's gonna get really seriously hurt. And I don't feel that I'm responsible for babysitting them, even though I live in the home next to it, because I was told it was only for maintenance people to come through, or utility people to maintain the utility lines.
Is it the same kids walking through every time? Or is it like all the neighborhood kids just taking
It
it
is.
out, or what?
Random neighborhood kids.
Do you have like a neighborhood site and do you post it on there?
I
Requesting
posted
parents
it
to-
with photos. I don't have a camera yet, but I plan to. They come through on little scooter bikes. They walk through. I get called the mean lady. I've only lived there 2.5 years. I have the neighbor guy in the back of me actually putting his pool water into my back yard.
I went out there yesterday and looked, and I could see where she's talking about where it could potentially be kind of unstable up on the sides there. I think there's some other issues. I mean, there's literally trees growing in that ditch.
Yeah.
Some
There's
of
a
which look to
circle
be
in
like so big around, they've been growing for a while, so it needs to be cleaned out and at a minimum, and I don't know what we could do, if anything, to really make it more stable through there.
I asked last year that the police, I got it approved here, but the fire department come through and do a burn. And I would plant wildflowers through there, but all it is poison ivy now. I mean, that's what it was last year. It grew up. But I'm part of the cultivators group. And I got a donation from them and others to plant clay balls on both sides of the culvert, and actually got 3 neighbors involved.
Anything else, because your time is
I
up?
know.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can you send me those pictures?
Steve is, Boulder's gonna send Steve those pictures, so we'll see what we can
It
do.
slows down the email a bit because of the size of the
I know.
total number of
Okay.
pictures, but I can
I'll
forward it
send
to you.
them.
They're good pictures, they're excellent pictures.
Yeah, and I think they, yeah, I think it would be great if Jake could take a look, see if there's anything we can do.
Yeah, I have
especially
3 more
with him.
photos.
And, I think longer term, I'd like us to maybe think about developers where they do have these kind of ditches, maybe doing more to cover that, because fortunately, we don't have a ton of them in town. But everywhere we do, they get pretty unmanageable and unsightly.
And this one, I went by the day before the meeting, I mean, it's pretty steep, and to me, I feel like whether the ditch is cleaned out or not, it's always gonna wanna be soft and wanna feed down into the ditch, the banks aren't, they're just not that stable. So I can see how it would just be a recurrent problem. It'd be nice if we could put like a culvert in there and just cover it, that way it was level. We could have more wildflowers.
Yeah.
But, I think cleaning up is the step one, but there'll be some more maintenance probably needed.
Anyone else from the council wishing to comment before we move on? Moving on, we'll check into it, see what we can do. You did write your name and address back on the, we'll try and contact you from that then. Number 6 is ordinances. A, ordinance amending 2025 fiscal year budget.
Make a motion to put this ordinance on first reading by title only.
Second. Motion by Dr. Powell for, second by Roger Spencer. First reading by title only. Will the clerk read the title?
An ordinance amending the wastewater and stormwater funds for the fiscal year 2025.
Any discussion?
Motion to put on second reading?
Second.
Motion to put it on second reading by Holly, second by Roger. Will the clerk read the title?
An ordinance amending the wastewater and stormwater funds for the fiscal year 2025.
Make a motion to put this ordinance on final passage.
Second.
Motion to put it on final passage by Dr. Pyle, second by Carol. This is a hand vote to go to electronic voting. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. 7 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Please vote. Looks like we got 7 yeses, so the ordinance passes. What is the ordinance number?
2512.
Okay. Number 7 is reports, and the first report is administration report. Steve, do you have any comments or about your report, or?
On the fleet management, I got notified today that there's 3 more, they're public works trucks is what they are, that are to be delivered within the next week.
Are we gonna replace that car that got damaged and pulled out, or?
We already did. We-
Oh, good.
They totaled it.
Uh-huh.
It had $4,800 worth of damage and the car was only worth $4,500. So the insurance company told it. We'll be getting a check for $3,800. We have a $1,000 deductible, and we have the new vehicle in already for them.
And we already got the check.
Oh, and we already got the check.
And what's the new vehicle?
It is a Blazer.
And is that from our agreement with Internet?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions of Steve, or Steve had anything else to add?
Do we have an update on what's going on at the police department? Like with their cameras and stuff?
I don't have one, but do you know anything about it, Jim? Chief didn't tell me of anything that it,
Well, our video system, for interrogations, it would basically cost more or about the same to fix it versus replacing it. By state law, we have to record all interviews and interrogations. We've been using our body cameras, but the batteries are prone to fail at times during a lengthy interrogation. So I think the chief is wanting to look for solutions to replace that system.
Do you want me to have, that bid that we got, or that quote that we got from Mid Central, you want me to have them update that, as that was, part of it, that is the surveillance system?
Yeah, and then if there's, you know, put it out for bids if anybody else is able to do that job. And then we're still waiting on the strategic plan for the next step.
Yep.
Anything outstanding on storm cleanup that needs to be addressed?
Not really. I got everything sent off to Myrna, so I'm sure they'll send down a appraiser to look at everything. We do have the contract and bid docs drawn up now, and we'll get those advertised. Looks like we're looking at about the 19th or 20th of May to open those bids.
Do we hear any more about total damage? I remember the discussion at least, to file like SEMA and FEMA, we needed to have be upwards of close to 11 million total. Did we ever get
On our
a
side of
total
it,
from the area?
no, we did not.
Just didn't know if we got close to being able to meet that or not.
I can't imagine us being close to it, but that's, we'd have to see what Chief Joe.
Yeah, I knew we weren't gonna have enough just from Carl, but as I recall, we we're gonna be able to submit that as kind of an area.
Lamar doesn't count because they're Barton County, so it would still have to be within Jasper County.
I knew we weren't sure then, but I didn't know if we had any updates on that.
Steve, did you wish to talk about number 10 on your note about grant funding there on the Department of Justice and the school?
Yeah, this is a good place for it. I was gonna do it under new, but this is a good place for it. There is a school violence prevention program that's opened up for a grant program for, covers lots of things with surveillance, access control, the equipment for that type of thing. I started looking at the initial survey that you have to send in with it. There's going to be some interaction that we'll have to get with the school district. They'll have to fill out some of the information on it. Looks very promising, and it is a technology-based grant, so it could actually tie video surveillance from the school into our system also, so that we could actually, officers could actually be able to see what it would, you know, what's going on at the school. My understanding is that the school needs some upgrades on surveillance also, so this is pretty timely. Have to jump on it pretty quick. I've got a portion of it done this afternoon, and I'll be sending it over to the school for their portion of it too.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. I'm sorry I jumped the gun on you on that one.
That's fine.
Any other questions of Steve and his report?
I was just gonna mention, you get number 8 on here, but we actually took care of that one, I think, last time.
Yes.
Come on.
Yep. Should have taken that one off there. That's a done deal, so.
Let's talk about generator maintenance agreement. That's what number 8 is.
We picked one, didn't we?
Yeah, that's what I said, that one should be able to come off. We
But
did
yeah.
that last meeting.
Just inform the public what's on the discussion.
Number 6 there, the census AMI meter upgrade. John, and I forgot to ask Elena today, so put her on the spot a little bit. Out of the 3,300 meters that we have, it's down to only not reading 35.
I think it was in the 30s. We have, the 15th is when John would read meters for the next bill. So Caleb with Core and Maine is going to help John and I do that read, make sure that everything is working correctly. And then we have got training for it June 9th, I believe. So they're hoping to have it live in June.
Out of that approximately 35, there's several of them that are manual meters that have never been changed over to the electronic. I think there was some billing coding issues also. So it dwindles that number pretty quick to actual meters that it's not reading.
And John's been changing 2 to 3 a day, switching them out. So.
Yep.
That's a big project. I can remember back 20 years ago, how many books did we have? And it'd take everybody from Public Works, 8.
Books.
And they had to take everybody from Public Works about 2 weeks to read all the meters. And going through fences with dogs and everything else was issues. And this has helped speed that process up. But I can remember that was a big process. Anything else, guys?
I do have one other question, if I may.
Yes, Walter.
Have we got anything about the damage on the solar panels, on what that's gonna take to repair?
No, that was another one. That was old business. I was going to you. I asked.
We just hijacked your whole.
Yeah, really. Well, it just means I won't have to talk during doing old business. I've asked Myrma about what the process would be if we did not repair it, that we would take some of the panels that are still good, maybe some of the controllers, use them on some just general damaged ones down at Public Works on the wastewater treatment plant and the other, use that and demolish these 2 systems, not even use them anymore. And so I'm waiting for an answer back on that one. We will, at some point, you will need to decide whether you want to get these repaired or get rid of them.
Were they saving us any money?
No, sir.
And this is my opinion only, my dad was a meter reader or tester for Empire, and I think their metering was off to where they wouldn't, and I think that they didn't wish to tell us what we were producing and what it was taking. That's just my feeling on them, and that's my personal feeling alone.
Several years ago, to back that up, we actually got an $18,000 credit from Liberty because there was something wrong with the meters. And they said they corrected it. I never saw any difference in the billing at all.
Well, how long have we been asking them about how
Years.
much we were generating?
Years.
Well, and what was it, one summer going back when they first put in Public Works and wastewater, we got back close to $30,000 if I remember right, but that was only 1 year that I can remember.
One time only, and I think that was a rebate.
Was it? So anyway, that's a decision you all have to make. I don't know. The technology's there. We're probably into the 8th or 9th generation since these things were made. But you also got to take in consideration now that the tariffs are in place with China, what it's going to cost us to try and put them back, because the tariffs are probably going to make them cost prohibitive to us unless somebody's already got a bunch of them already stacked up somewhere. Anything else, council? If not, we'll move on to the police department report. Is the next one in front of me. Assistant Chief Stever, do you have anything to talk about or add?
No, I don't, sir.
Anybody have any questions of the chief on his, or assistant chief about the police department? If not, we'll move on. The next one is the Public Works report. Jay, you have anything to add to your report?
No, sir.
Council, any questions of Jay?
Thank you for all the work getting the pavilion ready for the farmer's market. We appreciate all that. And when's the splash pad supposed to open?
Steve, he's directing it back to you. Splash pad.
When we open it.
We were gonna open it this week, but it's cooled off. And so it's ready to go next week. John's already on it, so.
Everything looked good to go?
Everything was,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay.
Had to replace
All the
the,
thing, we gotta put the
canopies on.
Sunshades?
Yep.
All right, thank you very much.
Council, anything else on the Public Works report? Moving on, we get into the building inspector's report. I had asked the building inspector to be here tonight if there was any questions on her report, but she has a tennis tournament with her daughter somewhere and could not be here. I just think it's pertinent that when I have Public Works and the police department here, when they give the report, that the building inspector ought to be here to also, if there's any questions. Is there any questions, council, that we can ask and then Steve can relay it to her? Okay, moving on. Committee reports. Don't have my list of, I did have, went blank. There we go, thank you, Roger. Some of these I've added people. Budget and Finance, Walter Hayes is chair. Walter, you have anything?
Just that we want to add Karma Wright to that. Mayor had suggested that perhaps we involve some people in the public, and I thought that was a great idea, just for nothing else, for transparency's sake. And I reached out to Karma Wright, and she said she would be glad to help us with that. Beyond that, I don't have anything to go tonight. We'll see about setting a meeting here
Okay.
before too long and get together. And
Code and Nuisance, Carol Wolford, chair.
Yes, we had a meeting tonight at 6:30. We had two ordinances we were looking at amending, and one of them, fishing regulations for the Lakeside Park area. That one we approved, and we'll bring it up to the next meeting. Then we had one on parking overnight in public parks, which is a no-no, but anyway, we're gonna change some wording on that, so it will be brought up again next meeting. And that was it.
I gave you some stuff about when we have our public forum about, and you were to look at that. Had you looked at it?
I have, and I've gotta get with Mr. Talley on that,
Okay.
so
I was
I'll
talking,
talk to you after the meeting if you don't mind.
what I was wanting to do, and I asked Elena to look up, I noticed on some of the other cities where the public forum is, that they also make that mission statement or that opening statement, put it on the agenda to where the people, when they pick up a agenda back, they can also see it, and then I also read it to them. She got how many different cities?
10 to 12, I think.
10 to 12, all the way from Carthage to Bolivar to Nixa, and some of them did some very interesting things. And with Carol being the chair of the Code Nuisance, I gave that to her to look at for discussion. We don't have to do it, but I would, like I said, I know one of our sister cities here in Jasper County did that, and I thought that looked like a good idea, maybe the transparency of not having it in front of them. So she's gonna look at it, maybe get with you.
I've got copies of all those, so I'll get to you later tonight. That's okay.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for looking at those. Human Resources, Roger Spencer, chair, and I left Carol Wolford off of that one, and I added her back onto that one. Roger, anything?
Yes, I got the evaluation sheets, and I've done passed them out to everybody that's on the Human Resource Committee. I'd like to have a special next meeting at 6:30.
Okay.
And we'll go over it and see if there's anything they want to change or anything like that. And then we can bring it to the full council the next time around for approval.
Thank you, Roger. Appreciate it. Public Facilities and Planning, Dr. Pyle, chair.
At the last meeting, there was discussion about the committee taking up the topic of internet service at public parks and facilities, and Steve and I were in the process of communicating with each other about getting a meeting scheduled, and then we had a tornado and everybody's priorities got shifted for obvious reasons. So we'll take that back up and get that on the calendar
somebody was trying to tell you no.
Thank you, Dr. Pyle. Anything else?
No, sir.
Economic Development, Holly Levine, Chair. I did have you add Tom Paul, and that was another person from the public, I think, for transparency, and Tom had a lot of good ideas. I think about economic development when we had the mayoral forum. Both him and Karma Wright really impressed me, and that's the reason I asked, put them on the committee. Holly, your turn. Do you have anything?
No, that's great. Thank you very much. I don't have anything at this time.
Thank you. Go ahead, Roger. I'm sorry. I took your
Running off with it.
Yeah, well, I had one here and I did something, I either posted it or handed it out. Unfinished business. I'll start with Anita. You have any unfinished old business?
I do not.
Holly?
No, sir.
Roger?
No, sir.
Walter?
Just a question. I think the very first meeting that I came back on the Board of Alderman, I asked about the ability to broadcast our meetings better, and we said it was going to be part of this whole thing we were doing with some of the upgrades. I was just curious where we were in that process and when we were going to be getting to City Hall, if you will.
That's another one of the quotes that we got in from Mid Central that was paused, I guess would be the best way to put it. And that needs to be taken up again. And we did have Marshall? Was it Marshall Graham? No. Corey Klingon.
There you go. Yeah.
Corey Klingon from the high school came by. He took a look at some things. We're trying a new software tonight, and it seems to be the only problem is volume control, so I need to turn up the master volume just a little bit. Replace that camera with one that's a little more high definition than what the old one was. Seems to be clear on our end anyway.
And he found the glitch where it was
Remember
flashing.
Flash?
It was just a simple cable change.
Yeah, change the cable
So
out.
I mean, that, and you guys have been fighting that for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And in particular, my question at the time was, you know, right now when we stream our meetings, all people are seeing is basically the agenda, and I think it'd be good for them to get to see
And
people up here.
that's another thing we discussed with Corey, and he might have some ideas. He texted me this evening, said he apologized. Of course, it's close to the end of the year and there's a lot of projects in his place, but he's going to come back and visit with Steve and Elena and Crystal and I and try and see. I'm like you, I don't want people to look at my face all the time, but when somebody's talking on the council, it would help because people don't recognize voices to know who's speaking.
And just to give an example for what it's worth, I'll watch video of the House in Jefferson City. And there's a big difference between watching the deliberations of the House versus listening to the Senate.
Yep.
Because they don't do video on the Senate side.
Well, and we made suggestions to Corey. Of course, he'd probably have to get approved from the school, but I'd like to see maybe a student or two from the school, kind of like how Missouri Southern and Jet TV does school board. Missouri Southern does the city council in Joplin. Maybe to give these kids a hands-on training.
Yeah, it'd be good.
I mean, it's just an idea, whether it flies, but thank you, Walter, for bringing that up. But we're looking at it, and that's a very good project. Any other old business,
sir.
Walter? Carol?
No, sir.
Jim?
I'll make one comment. I think the timing is perfect for that, as Anita and I are now on the council, and, you know, people need to see us, so it's gonna really help.
Well, and they don't recognize your voices. I mean, that's part of it.
In other words, he wants to make sure his
He's up.
wife knows he's here.
Can't skip out.
I just figured he was saying that they've upgraded the view.
Anything else, James? Mr. Talley?
Yes, just make sure those cameras are focused on you all. And not them. Yes, Mayor, you gave me an assignment at the last meeting to investigate statutes and laws pertaining to the power of yourself, Mayor, versus city administrator, specifically with regard to control of the police chief and the police department. And there are very few statutes that are pertinent, but there are a couple of statutes that allow fourth-class cities to adopt a city administrator form of government, and then to adopt laws implementing that form of government. And that's what we did. I'm not sure the exact year that we adopted it, back in the early 2000s. And what we did, and what I found in our current laws, are no diminution of the mayor's power to control all of the officers of the city, including the police chief, but an injection or insertion of a power of the city administrator under the supervision, at all times, under the supervision of the mayor, to manage the city government and the employees, including the chief of police. And specifically, because this is what you specifically asked about, we have a provision in the chapter 200, which controls the police department, that deals specifically with mayor versus city administrator. And the wording there was tricky when we created it. It was optional, and it's still tricky, but it makes the situation, I think, clear. I'm going to read it. The department shall be under the supervision of an executive officer to be known as the chief of police. He shall be responsible to the city administrator and the mayor of the city of Carl Junction for the efficient operation of the Department of Police. He shall promptly perform or cause to be performed all legal directives. These are the key words. Of the city administrator and/or mayor. The objective there was to give the city administrator the power to give orders to the chief of police, along with the mayor's powers. But there was never an attempt to overrule the mayor's responsibility to supervise the city administrator. It's clear under the city administrator's powers, the last one, I think it's the last one, G, limitation. At no time shall the duties or powers of the city administrator supersede the action by the mayor or the Board of Alderman. Now, I spoke with the mayor, I spoke with the city administrator, and I spoke with the chief of police about their understanding of the relative powers of the mayor and city administrator to order the chief of police. And these were lengthy discussions with each of these individuals. In a nutshell, if the mayor believes A should be the case, and the city administrator believes B should be the case, the city administrator under our laws is obligated to go with A, the mayor's choice. The mayor is in charge. The city administrator, on the other hand, when there's not a difference of opinion, but under the supervision of the mayor, is empowered to give orders to the chief of police. Now, I spoke with each of these individuals who are the principals in this situation, and they all concurred with that assessment and believe that that's how they have been operating and were operating. Am I right, Steve?
Yes.
And Mayor? And I didn't talk to you, I'm sorry, but I did talk to the chief, and he agreed with that general scenario. So, the mayor's in charge. But in the absence of the mayor being on the spot, the city administrator does have the power to issue orders to the chief of police.
Thank you, Mike. I wanted that clarified, not only for myself, but there's new councilmen up here that might not understand what you've just said.
Let me add, I could have written a lengthy memo and spent even more time, but I did clear it with the mayor that this oral response would be sufficient, and I hope it is.
Typical attorney.
Oh. Anything else under old business, Mr. Talley?
No.
Elena, old business? Crystal?
No, sir.
Steve?
One thing there in your packet, we tasked Algier Martin with checking in on for road sidewalk improvements. If it was feasible or about what it would cost. He did an estimate for us for, oh my gosh, how many feet? A lot. Linear feet, 1,950 linear feet, 2,300 feet of stormwater piping. It was $1.4 million. And there was several other issues in that letter too that he brought to our attention with doing that. Stormwater is one of them, termination of where you would do it at. And then the current talks that we've had about Fur Road to begin with. He did get back to us with that. So.
Quite expensive for something that several people in the town would like to see. Thank you, Steve. It's very informational.
Can I add to that? I know it's a lot of money, but personally, I think if it stopped at Lone Elm, you still have foot traffic going to that Dollar General store, but maybe it really should go to Van Hoosier instead of Lone Elm, because I think that's a lot of foot traffic we have now is because people are walking to that Dollar General store. So stopping at Lone Elm, I don't know if that's even.
And that puts another entity back into the equation.
Yeah.
That puts the city and Airport Drive.
It becomes, I think, part of a bigger discussion because somehow, some way, Fur Road has got to get widened. There's too much traffic on that road now for 2 lanes.
That's probably
And I don't think personally, I don't think it makes sense to spend over $1 million putting sidewalks that you're gonna have to tear up later.
Exactly. Yeah, I just was saying, if and when we do that, it probably would be more.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you'd like to, and Walter's right, the discussion on Fur Road, and you're right too, that discussion needs to be from, I don't know how far down to the west on Fur Road, but it needs to be widened with possibly curb and gutter and sidewalks, because it's the traffic, but then you've got different entities we got to deal with again. Hopefully, the special road district, I hope the county commissioners get together on that one. Okay, where was?
One last thing, and I want to back up what Mr. Talley said. I have always viewed that working relationship with the chief and the mayor as a very collaborative process. That's the only way that makes it work, is to be that way.
Thank you, Steve. Anything else under old business?
Nope.
Jay, Public Works have any old business? Chief or Assistant Chief Stever?
No, sir.
Okay, we're going to start with new business. I'll start with you, James. Anything new?
I do have a kind of a small suggestion. Carol and I were at the emergency preparedness meeting that was held last week. Excellent job. Everybody did great. During that meeting, Carol, you can disagree with me if you'd like, it was my impression that the biggest problem that we really had with the tornado response, emergency response, was it's kind of a lack of communication with the public at the time. And specifically, the idea that the storm hits, the storm goes, and emergency preparedness and all the first responders have a trouble getting where they need to go because people are out on the streets. They're doing the rubberneck thing, or because I am an eternal optimist, they are looking to help out their neighbors and trying to get a jump on this. My thought was that through our app that we have, that Carl Junction City app that is available, that if we could do a push notification during storms to tell people, you know, it's a tornado warning's been issued, please find shelter, and then when the storm passes, be able to send another notification that says the storm has passed. If your home is safe, please remain at home. Do not, you know, venture out. We need to keep the roads clear so city and everybody else can get where they need to go. And then at some point we can say, okay, the roads are clear. We've accounted for everybody. If you would like to volunteer to help, please meet at this spot, please meet at that spot, etc. Just to give people some kind of live updates, and it won't matter if their power's out or what have you, because it'll be on their cell phones. And I know we do these types of things, we tell people ahead of time, of course, but when the storm hits, I don't know that people are like, oh, what was that Facebook post about? Let me go check that again. I think if it was hitting their phones and their phones were buzzing and they were getting updates from the city, I would find that to be very beneficial. Now, I don't know what goes into that. To me, I don't think it should be a great expense or anything, but I could be wrong. But that was just kind of my thought on that.
Appreciate it, James. That's a good thought. And I hate to be the negative Sally on this one, but when power goes out, your internet goes out, and sometimes if we have a major tornado like we did in '03, cell phones go down because everybody and their brothers trying to communicate on cell phones. So, but it's a good thought. Maybe the chief of police is our emergency coordinator for the city. Maybe he should have contacted, maybe just, you know, this is hindsight, news media, and did that push too. Anything else, James, on?
No, that was maybe even on our Facebook page or the local community pages. If it were me, I would have like a different background already saved, so when the storm hits, I could go to Facebook, upload the new background with all the information that you might find pertinent. That way it's just in people's faces, you know, versus a post. But again, once it's over with, remove that background, put the old one, just to try to keep people in the know.
Dr. Pyle?
Just a related comment, it does require a subscription, but the Nixle notifications are great, and they're geared toward exactly what you're describing, and there were a couple of them at least that went out during the storm.
Yes.
Very timely and communicated the kind of messages that you're describing. So maybe just a push to make the public aware that may not know that they can subscribe to that.
Thank you. Anything else?
That is all.
Carol, new business?
No, sir.
Walter?
Depends on whether you want me to talk about the email that we exchanged.
Go ahead, that's fine.
Okay. I just didn't know if you want me to do
No,
that now or
that's-
if we want to
no.
wait until another one. I had sent an email actually several weeks ago to Steve on this subject, and I sent something to the mayor a few days ago. I personally think we're at a point where we might want to consider looking at bigger vision, if you will, for Carl Junction. If we're happy with just strictly being a bedroom community of Joplin, that's all we're ever going to be, then perhaps we're right where we need to be and everything's good. But if we want to do more and have the ability to expand, really potentially go after more in the way of annexations, more revenue and so forth, I think it would be prudent upon us to at least look at the idea of possibly moving to a Class 3 city as opposed to Class 4. That allows us to do new things, if you will, with the governmental structure if we wanted to. It potentially gives us the ability to annex property somewhat easier. And I think it's possibility different cities have done that through the years. I don't know if it's the right move for us, but I do think it would be something that would be a good thing for us to at least study and see if there's enough benefit to us for us to want to move that direction.
Good discussion, Walter. That needs to come up whether we have a special meeting amongst the whole council or a public, because I could see where there is benefits and there is some bad to it, but that needs to be the discussion.
Yeah, there are definitely pros and cons. It's a matter of when we get done analyzing it, we think there's enough pros for our city to make it a worthwhile move for us. And I would like to see us perhaps put a committee together to study on that.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it back at you, Walter. What would you like to see? Do we need to give it, I'm gonna throw Crystal, do we need to give Crystal to look at some of that stuff? With other cities, because Elena, look at that public forum for them in other cities. I know you, and what you sent out to me, it talked about Bolivar and a couple of St. Charles, what they had done and how they had approached it, and what they seen as benefits and what they seen as.
Ozark, I think, was one that went from class 4 to 3.
Yeah. It's always nice to think, as Carl Junction is 1960s Mayberry, and Andy and Barney Fife and Ernest T. Bass, but we need to move into the new century. And of course, then we'd have to grow big enough to become a charter like Joplin and Carthage, and that brings another set of issues and problems that can be good or bad. But when you move up in classification, the way I understand is you open up, you're governed by state statutes, but it opens up some avenues to you. Am I talking out of?
And I have to say that in all the years that I've represented charter cities and fourth-class cities and villages and towns, I have never, ever looked at third-class cities. So I really don't know the answer.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
And one of the possible advantages, right? I'm not going to say it's the be-all, end-all. The easiest way I can describe the difference between fourth and third class. Fourth class city, we can only do what the General Assembly says we can do. That's it. A third class city, we can effectively do, I'm going to make a blanket statement that's not exactly accurate, but I'll do my best to clean it up. We can basically do whatever we want to unless the General Assembly says we cannot, or federal law or something of that nature says we can't. So it opens up a lot of potential opportunities for us, even from a ordinance standpoint.
Thank you, Walter. Thank you for bringing that up. I think that's a good subject to discuss amongst the council and how we handle it. You and I, maybe, and Steve need to have some more discussion along those lines and see whether we need to talk to some of these towns that went through the vote, because I think you have to go to a vote of the people to change your.
And when we decide to do it, we would have to pass an ordinance saying we were going to do it, and then an election has to be held within a certain time frame after we pass that ordinance. So there are time limits involved there as well if we decided to go forward with that.
Thank you, Walter.
Probably ought to start looking at all the legal issues of getting to do that.
I will take a look, see what there is. I really don't know.
Everybody's lost one over on you.
Well, it's like going from a village to a fourth class
Well,
city.
I understand.
There's a lot of opportunities to change.
But there are laws that govern that, and I haven't looked at them, so.
Yeah, thank you. But I think that's a good issue to look at, Walter. That's looking to the future, not being.
If I can make a suggestion, well, you might send that analysis to Mr. Talley, because it had the revised statute reference in it.
That'd be a great starting place.
Thank you.
Be glad to.
And I think that's the good thing to do. Anything else under new business, Walter?
No, sir.
Dr. Pyle?
Well, I'll piggyback off of that. In my view, one of the things that limits us in terms of growth and economic development is transportation infrastructure, that we can't directly influence ourselves. We have to rely on other entities to assist with that. I saw Senator Carter recently at an event in passing and haven't had a chance to follow up, but she indicated that she thought there might be traction again toward a west bypass. Have you heard anything in that regard, Steve?
We just started on the next round of wants, needs, prioritizing for MoDOT at JATSO. And I bring that up every year when we do it, that west bypass needs to stay on that list. So it is still on the list.
You know, how our feeder roads from here in Carl Junction would connect to that.
I mean,
Wasn't that the one that was gonna go down to the J highway?
Yes.
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I can remember.
Sorry.
This ties into the fur road discussion and everything else. I remember Jim Wisdom telling me when he was mayor that 171 basically had too much traffic on it for the size that it was, and supposedly MoDOT had discussed widening that 25 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
it's been something that.
it's kind of like the bypass between Joplin and Carthage, 249, and how that happened over, that discussion, and it finally came about, and oh my, it's taken a lot of traffic off of Range Line, and Range Line's still busy.
Yeah.
And how it would take the traffic, if I remember right, and my memory sometimes isn't the best, but they were trying to connect into I-44 and get a feeder to where it either connected to 69 or 400 was the discussion, but that's been,
That was 400.
yeah, that's been 15, 20 years ago that I can remember. And I've been out of the loop too long to know what's going on now. Anything else, Dr. Pyle?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I hate to do this, before we move on, are you aware of this Third Avenue ditch situation, or is that something we need to bring up for the minutes, or?
Third Avenue ditch situation.
That'll be Mr. Bell.
Oh.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Public Works has work orders on
Okay,
it.
I didn't know if that was something we need to bring up, or?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
They are, I think Jay would probably say it better than I can, but we're kind of behind right now.
It's thrown,
I work for the government, I know about being here.
this little minor hiccup we had with a tornado, and we were very lucky. Trees and roofs can be replaced. We didn't lose any lives, and it wasn't, yes, it was a catastrophe. It could have been a lot worse. And it's kind of thrown Public Works, my wanting something to do with the swimming pool, it's kind of thrown that to the wayside right now. But going back to what you brought up, and I'll use it as my new business, Steve and I have discussed getting on a plan of cleaning whistles, not only in this part of town, but you've got Oceanor Acres, you got Country Club Estates, a lot of them have whistles that we have neglected for years, that have got debris built up in them. And of course, we've had a lot of dry weather in here. When we got 3 inches of rain, people get worried and they start calling. And that's good, but we need to sit down and do, I know Jay's got his plate full right now, and he's probably not liking to hear all, but we need to get on a plan of going through and cleaning whistles, whether it's taking one side of town or taking, one side of I call Old Town, this part of town, and then going over to Country Club Estates and doing it all at the same time, but taking a street or two at a time, the same way in Oceanor Acres, identifying which are the worst ones. But that's a good thing. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. I know what I was going to ask. The night we had the afternoon we had the tornado, nothing, Steve, I had only been in office like 4 or 5 days, and I didn't have the new police chief's number, and I didn't have Jay's number. I had Jimmy and Delmer's number, and I, be honest with you, I kind of freaked out a little. I came down here to the police department, and it was locked up tighter than a drum. There was nobody, at the office, And luckily, Craig was coming this direction towards City Hall. We got into City Hall. About that time, Steve texted me with the numbers, and Mark, it all fell together. But there was a few 10 or 15 minutes that I was kind of freaking out because I didn't, I don't like to micromanage, but I like to know what's going on.
I like to see that.
And, my wife didn't think it was very nice. But I'm being honest with you, and that was nothing to Steve. Steve was here for 2 days after I took office, and he took off camping. That's fine. But then have something hit like that, and of course I went through some what they call emergency management training, NIMS training, and Joe Perkins gave that to us probably 15 years ago when Delynn Davey was still on this council. I can remember Delynn going and Richard Zaccardelli, and we had to take emergency management NIMS training for if we ever had federal grants to qualify for that. But again, that's been 15 years ago. And like I said, I freaked out. And wasn't pretty, my wife was all over me for freaking out, But everything, we luckily had good people in place that knew what to do, and they were already there doing their jobs. But one of my biggest complaints is, there's no way on the weekends, on Saturday and Sunday, other than a telephone over there that you dial 911, and that gal, that didn't help any. I told her I'm the new mayor and I need to be able to get a hold, and she couldn't even give me the police chief's number. And whether do we need to have somebody man the police station on weekends for, a few hours on Saturday and Sunday? Again, we do have a storm shelter in there, but it's only capable of holding 10 or 15 people at the most. But still, like I said, that goes along with my freaking out, not being able to contact somebody, because if we'd had somebody there, a dispatcher or a police officer, then I could have talked to, would have calmed my nerves down a little bit. I don't drink and I don't smoke anymore, so that, I don't know if we need to look into. Steve and I had that discussion also, but I'm being honest with, believe me, it really put me in a bad situation.
Start smoking again.
I can't. My lungs are destroyed because I had COVID. I've got COVID
The
pneumonia.
next thing is to start drinking.
I take diabetes medicine, and I can't, my diabetes would go crazy.
Is there any way to forward phone calls that may be going in there to somebody, so they don't have to actually be on site, on the weekends?
Yeah, we've tried a couple of different things with that phone. I don't think the chief or I are very happy with what has happened, and after the conversation with the mayor, I talked to the chief a little bit about, we might need to add another clerk to that so that we can at least have 8 hours a day, every day coverage, in there with somebody can walk in. And we knew this going into it. We knew that we were going to go down to a minimum and that we could work our way back to a workable thing.
Because it's not only me, but the public needs to be able to talk to somebody. And this goes back before I was elected mayor. We had an incident in the park there in Center Creek. And we had kids tearing bump blocks up, and they were throwing clay pigeons with a hand thrower into the pool and up into the trees. And what really set my wife off was one guy publicly displayed defecation, in public. And she called 911, and it's 25 minutes before the police department was able to respond. But the questions they ask are not the best. Do they display a gun?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Tell me about it.
That's where my heartburn is. But we had, when she seen the guy doing what he did, that she called 911, but it was 25 minutes before an officer showed up. So, anyway, here I go, long-winded. but PD office staffing or dispatch or something on the weekends. We need to where the public can have some kind of contact, whether it's a dog complaint, whether it's kids doing donuts in a parking lot. I know kids will be kids, but there still needs to be some avenue for the residents to get some kind of satisfaction back. That's all I have. Roger, do you have anything new?
No.
Holly, I'm sorry. Anita? Mr. Talley, anything new? Elena?
Yes, sir, two things. The first small one is the City of Neosho is holding a Sunshine Law training class June 9th at 10 a.m. at the Neosho Auditorium. It's open to anyone that would like to attend. If you've never attended a Sunshine Law class, there is good information for what is and is not public record. If you would like to go, please let me know. They just ask that we respond so that the Attorney General's office can bring enough books. They have little books that hand out that go over that ordinance. So if any of you would like to attend that, please let me know and I will let Neosho know. And then also, we need to remove Mark Powers from the bank account and reinstitute Mike Moss as a signer on the bank account, but I need that to be in the minutes for the bank. So
Make a motion that we remove Mark Powers and add Mike Moss as signer for the city bank account.
Second.
Mark Powers. Well, I got Mark Powers. David Pyle motioned, second by several people here, and since Roger's next to me, he's one of them I heard. Roger Spencer seconded. Do we need to vote on this?
yes.
Is this a hand vote or does this go into the?
Hand vote.
All in favor signify by raising your right hand. 7 in the affirmative with 1 absent. Thank you, guys. It's nicer, we've got 3 people, signers on our checks. With 2, they can still process them, but it's good to have 3, because who knows what can happen. Anything else, Elena?
No, sir, that's it.
Crystal?
Yes, sir.
Steve?
One thing to add on to that weather thing, weather alert, or the community center page had 3,500 views of that when it was on there, and the Joplin News First article that was on there that also streamed it, they had 11,800 views on it. Now that view, could somebody just stop, maybe not watched it, but looked at the post anyway, but still, that was awesome to see that kind of response. They did, the Citizens for CJ did a great job on it.
And if I could, if you ever want it, I have a sound system that is better quality than what we bought for the chamber, like I think perhaps even when I was president, the better part of 10
That's
years
when we
ago.
bought that. It is old.
I'm happy to loan it for that sort of thing.
Anything else, Steve, under new business?
No, sir?
Jay, new business?
Nope.
Assistant Chief?
Sir.
Number 10 is closed session per revised Missouri State Statute 610.021, leasing, purchasing, or sale of real estate by a public governmental body where the public knowledge of the transaction might adversely affect the legal consideration thereof.
Motion to go into closed session?
Second.
Motion by Holly Levine to go into closed session, second by Dr. Pyle. Roll call vote, so what,
Clerk, please call the roll.
Anita Francis?
Yes.
Holly Levine?
Yes.
Roger Spencer?
Yes.
David Pyle?
Yes.
Walter Hayes?
Yes.
Kara Wolford?
Yes.
James Shanks?
Yes.
we are in closed session and we will come back. no,
Yeah.
no vote.
Once Mayor, I just suggest that you announce to the public what we generally did in closed session.
Discussion of,
We were back in open session. There was discussion on real estate. There was no decision made.
No votes taken.
No votes taken. Anything else before the council?
Make a motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion by Walter Hayes to adjourn, second by Dr. Pyle. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand.